Hello, I'm Sarah Ashworth. I'm a mental health trainer for schools, colleges and universities for the Charlie Waller Trust, which is a charity which was set up in 1997 after Charlie, a young man who was experiencing depression, ended his own life. The Trust's vision is of a world where people understand and talk openly about depression, where young people know how to maintain their wellbeing, and where the most appropriate treatment is available to everyone who needs it. So I'm here today to talk about mental health and young people. What is mental health? Well, the World Health Organization defines mental health as a state of well-being in which every individual realizes his or her own potential, can cope with the normal stresses of life, can work productively and fruitfully, and is able to make a contribution to her or his community. However, our definition of what constitutes the normal stress of life has changed significantly in recent years, and in particular within the last few months in the face of the coronavirus pandemic, which has affected everybody and young people in particular. If we consider the complex lives of young people, this is a time of major transition. From babyhood through to early childhood and subsequently into adolescence. And we know that adolescence is a particularly challenging time when major physiological, neurological and psychological changes are taking place. If we consider just for a moment the neurological changes which occur, these continue roughly into the mid-20s and are associated with quite a stormy time when lots of things are changing and when impulse control can be affected and so on. And this may be a time when we start to see the emergence of mental health difficulties, particularly if there are other factors such as a history of adverse childhood experiences, a family history of mental ill health, perhaps low socio-economic status, and other factors such as academic difficulties, poor diet, poor sleep, and so on. All of these factors can influence the development of a mental health problem emerging during this particular time. So we may not always know if someone is experiencing difficulties with their mental health, because depending on the individual, these difficulties may manifest in different ways, and some young people may be more adept at hiding their emotions and hiding any difficulties they're experiencing. So it would be important to be alert to any changes in a particular area of their lives, and it might be helpful to use the stress acronym to remind ourselves of some of these potential changes. So the first S of stress relates to changes in studying. There may be commonly a decline in attendance, performance, or interest in schoolwork, alongside difficulties with concentration, memory, and decision making. The T of stress relates to temperament, which may include mood swings which are perhaps more significant than usual. There may be excessive anxiety, although it's important to add here that a degree of anxiety is perfectly normal, particularly during times of uncertainty. For some young people, there may be more of a flatness of mood with less emotional expression than normal, or perhaps a persistently low mood. The R of the stress acronym refers to changes in reactions or behaviour. So these may include withdrawal and avoidance of activities, including perhaps activities that the young person would normally enjoy. So they may be getting far less enjoyment out of hobbies and so on. The young person may appear to be agitated and may engage in difficult or disruptive behaviours. But again, it very much depends on the individual, and there may not be these particular signs. The E stands for changes in energy levels. So the young person may have less energy than usual and may be sleeping more or less than they usually would. However, for some young people, they may be more excitable or restless than usual. There may be fluctuations in weight, particularly if they lose their appetite or are comfort eating. The last two S's of the STRESS acronym relate to social interaction and any signs of self-harm. There may be social withdrawal, avoiding contact with family and also with friends. They may be more argumentative, agitated or irritated than usual. In terms of self-harm, there may be evidence of deliberate self-injury and any indication that a young person has been thinking of harming themselves, particularly if there have been any thoughts of suicide. It may be hard to know what to do if we're concerned that a young person might be experiencing difficulties with their mental health. So there are some basic principles which may help guide our particular approach. So the first really is the importance of managing our own stress response and trying as best as we can to approach the young person in a state of relative calmness. So focusing on our own breathing, our posture, and trying to get ourselves into a calm and relatively relaxed state is going to be much more helpful in aiding us to support someone who is in a state of distress. It would then be important to acknowledge any concerns that you have, and you might approach the young person by, for example, saying something like, "I've noticed that you seem to be more unhappy lately. How have you been feeling?" It would then be important to just listen, and to listen with the aim of trying to understand how the young person is feeling and to try to communicate that back to them. So to try and communicate empathy to them. It can be hard, particularly in modern times, to really demonstrate that we're listening. There are so many distractions, including mobile phones, computer screens, and so on, as well as concerns about the time we have available to really sit and listen to what someone is trying to tell us. So making the time to listen, to give the young person our full attention, and to try and empathise with them and communicate that empathic understanding to them can go a long way in helping them with any distress that they're experiencing. So how can we better manage our mental health and well-being? What are some of the evidence-based strategies that we can use to support ourselves? So starting with physiological factors, it's really important that we get sufficient sleep, particularly for young people, but at all ages across the lifespan. Sleep is imperative for good mental health. So having a wind down routine, avoiding the use of electronic devices before bed, perhaps 90 minutes to 2 hours before we try to get to sleep, is really important. Engaging in regular physical activity, getting adequate access to daylight is also crucial too, to help not just with the sleep-wake cycle, but to manage stress and also for the synthesis of vitamin D, which is essential for our immune function, for our physical health, and for our mental health. Eating a diet which is higher in unprocessed foods and lower in highly processed so-called junk foods is also associated with better mental health, particularly in young people. Social connection is also extremely important, and with the current global pandemic, many young people have been isolated from their friends. So finding ways of staying in touch with others, again, is crucial for our well-being. Other strategies which may help include writing down concerns. There's even some evidence that writing down anxieties around 10 minutes or so before an exam may actually improve working memory and improve exam performance too. Other evidence-based strategies that can help would be practicing mindfulness. So bringing our awareness to the here and now, taking notice of our physical surroundings, any physical sensations in the body, any emotions that we're experiencing, not only helps our subjective well-being, but there's research evidence that physical changes may actually take place in the brain which are associated with lower impulse control, greater flexibility and greater self-regulation. Also finding ways to be more compassionate towards ourselves, so becoming our own best friend and dealing with any internal self-castigation is really crucial for our well-being. And this can take some practicing, because the more stressed we get, the more of a tendency we have to talk negatively to ourselves. So it's important to add that although these self-help strategies may be helpful, some young people may require professional support. So early intervention is crucial in preventing more serious mental health problems from developing in vulnerable individuals. So for more information about supporting young people and the work that we do, please do see the Charlie Waller Trust's website. Thank you.